Yes, I'm coming. Because nothing inspires me more than meeting and listening to our young people, listening to their aspirations, also their anxieties, their dreams, and at times also their frustrations. That helps me in understanding where we are, where we are heading to. Because the fact is there is a generation gap between me and you all. So to get to know, friends, we know that our country, our country is experiencing revolutionary transformations. Transformations at the speed and scale not known before. It is palpable in the air. You can feel it. The country, which until recently, few years back, was at the margin of world affairs, embroiled in the problems within and ignored from without. Today, it is at the center and is moving towards the center of the stage, the global stage. All these transformations that are happening today, this gives us the confidence that we will be able to fulfill our resolve to meet the nation's destiny. That in the next 24 years, by the time the country will be celebrating centenary of independence, India would be a fully developed country, a self-reliant country, a country which would be able to be a decisive force for the good of the world, the good of the humanity. It's not far off. It's something that you all, my young friends, in the next 2.5 decades, when you will be at the helm of affairs, wherever you be, of course, some of you will be even before that, you take a pause and answer a question that I'm posing it today before you. And the question is that each one of you will answer for yourself, what did I do for this country to make it great, make it fulfill its destiny? Friends, today you have a day long, very, very important conclave. Several experienced and accomplished business leaders will be sharing with you their experience and insight As I was told, I heard how to navigate through the uncertain time. Well, I must confess, I am not a person from the world of business, but nearly half a century of experience in public life has taught me some lessons which I may like to share with you. You know, I'm told the theme of the conclave today is leadership in an age of disruption. Disruptions rarely a disruption is a pure accident. It's rarely a pure accident. Invariably, any disruption, it casts its shadow, howsoever faint that shadow may be, but it is visible to a discerning eye. A disruption, howsoever its footsteps, howsoever subtle it may be, it is audible to a discerning ear. The question is, are you alert enough to see and listen to that shadow and the footsteps? If you are, you don't get overwhelmed by disruption. Disruption doesn't overawe you. In fact, you are prepared for it. And then, instead of disruption overawing you or riding over you, you are able to steer its course. You are able to ride over it. Now, I'm sure you have numerous examples, illustrations, and experienced leaders of the business will share those experiences with you, and your faculty must have shared those with you already. But if you look at some examples, one example that comes to my mind very prominently is what happened when the Cold War began and the competition between US and USSR. US, United States of America, having established its superiority, military superiority over the world by demonstrating through detonating the nuclear weapons, it has established military superiority. But the leaders of the United States of America knew that USSR would not be sitting idle. Knowledge is not a franchisee of any one particular set of people. Soviet would be able to develop their nuclear capacity. And then what? Knowing it that one time, sooner than later, their rivals would be having this capacity, they began working on next. What next? And the next that they did, what they call the first offset, offsetting the danger, offsetting the change, offsetting the disruption. They built high-speed bombers and missiles to deliver the bomb to the enemy destination before the enemy could deliver it. So even when the USSR got the bomb, Americans developed the capacity to deliver the bomb faster than the Soviets, and they maintained the lead. Having maintained the lead, they realized that this knowledge too would not be with them forever. Russians would get it, Soviets would get it. So they started working on the nest before Russians got it. That's what they did. And what they called second offset. They developed ICT, Information Communication Technology, that is instant, suitor to sensor, instant delivery. You have the fastest bomber, you have long distance missiles, but I have something which can instantaneously do it, developing the ICT technology. So they maintained the lead. Again, the same logic. They knew that it is not going to be there for long. And they began working on what they call the third offset. Okay? You will have it, but we'll have something else. And then they started working on unmanned platforms, unmanned devices. Fight will be not by humans, not with boot on the ground, but by machines. And this way, they kept keeping themselves what we usually call the head of the curve. So, how we are prepared, how discernible we are to the coming change, coming disruption. If we are prepared, nothing to worry. You can turn it to your advantage rather than a cause of worry. It can be a cause of celebration. And you know, the smart leaders, they do that. The smart leaders are able to see and don't wait for the change to happen, but they are prepared to meet the change and shape the change. But we have another set of leaders who are great leaders, not just smart leaders. And the great leaders are invariably the disruptors. They are the ones who bring about the disruption. And if you can think of the modern time, in the modern time, in the world, who is the greatest creative disruptor? You know it. The greatest creative disruptor of the modern time is our Prime Minister, Prime Minister. And what did he do? All the changes that we see today, that the world listens to us with attention, and world expects India to deliver solutions to the problems, global problems. All the changes that happened in less than a decade. It is an interesting exercise for you all to understand and appreciate. What kind of disruptions that he brought about? When he came in 2014, since it is a leadership conclave, I'm referring to a leader and massive transformation brought about by India, a large country, about 130 crores. The country was home to the largest number of poor, largest number of sick, largest number of illiterate, largest number of villages and places unconnected, large millions of homes not having electricity, and millions homeless. That was the fact. Even after nearly 7 decades of independence, And there was no reason to keep blaming the British for all that. Yes, the British had left us devastated. Devastated in all aspects of our life. But if it took 70 years and still we were the home to the largest number of poor, sick, illiterate, unconnected, then there was something wrong. Something wrong in the way we were dealing with these problems. The countries which were behind us, they left us behind. We kept addressing the problems, and problems kept multiplying. We couldn't address it. So, what disruption he brought in? First, he did abolish the Planning Commission. When the Planning Commission was abolished, there was an impression all around, hue and cry, heaven was going to collapse. This man coming from a province, a state, knows nothing about how large is this country, how diverse, complex is the country, without planning. How could a country progress? That was the usual prevailing theme. But what did the Planning Commission do? The point is, in the Planning Commission, which has been trying to eradicate poverty, eradicate illiteracy, ensure health care to all, if it could not deliver it in over 6 decades, was it not worth looking at it? It's very raison d'etre. What the Planning Commission did, which was responsible for the planned growth of our country. A government would come in center. 5-year plan would be prepared. States will submit their plans, their proposals, what the states would like to do in the sector, how many schools they will build, how many colleges they will build, how many hospitals they will build, how many roads they will build. They will send the proposal to Planning Commission. The Planning Commission would sit together like a big boss. Depending on the resources, the kitty, the size of the kitty, they will say, okay, X amount of money is allocated to education, X amount, Y amount is to health. And constrained by the resources, progress will begin, the development will begin. We started building schools, building colleges, building hospitals, building roads. But we always remain behind. And you all know a saying attributed to Albert Einstein that if you keep repeating the same thing and expecting a different result is a sign of insanity.